Hello YouTube, it's Hauntown here, and today I'll be reviewing You Will Die Here Tonight, a retro survival horror game that draws significant inspiration from the original Resident Evil while also bringing its own ideas to the table, most of which are quite engaging. You Will Die Here Tonight follows 6 members of the Ares Division, an elite team of special soldiers tasked with a mission to infiltrate and explore a creepy mansion perched atop a remote island in search of a murderer. No sooner have our badass protagonists entered the mansion when an intense flash of light incapacitates them, and they end up separated and fighting for their lives. I'm not going to go into any more details about the game's story since I do consider it quite unique and something you should experience with as little information as possible going in. All I'm going to say is that the title is well deserved since pretty much everything in that damned house wants to kill you in gruesome and inventive ways. That being said, death is not the end here, at least not immediately since, as mentioned previously, there are 6 different characters to play with and they will all get their chance to shine if you're not careful. More specifically, you start the game by choosing which protagonist you want to control first, and if you get them killed, you are then asked to choose one of the surviving members in order to continue with the mission. Each character brings their own unique skill set to the table, such as a gun enthusiast that can upgrade weapons with the appropriate items and a doctor that can stockpile medical supplies more efficiently, making them all meaningful to try out at least once. The good thing about this death mechanic is that everything a character has achieved during their gameplay is then carried over to the other characters after an untimely demise, which pretty much makes your playthrough a race against death where you have to solve the mystery that is the mansion before you run out of characters while using their collective information, though the game is quite generous with your progress, a lot of which does carry over to a new playthrough as well. Now, as much as You Will Die Here Tonight is the result of an intense love for classic survival horror games, there are several things it approaches in unique ways, aside from the death system I mentioned. First, the game adopts an isometric camera view as opposed to the classic fixed camera angles or over-the-shoulder situations, which I found interesting and enjoyable. Second, combat is implemented quite differently from the immediate encounters you have been used to in other survival horror titles. More specifically, you first need to aim and trigger a fight against the various monsters you will find crawling about, which then transports you to a small cyclical arena in first-person perspective. While there, you are unable to walk and can only aim around in order to locate where the enemies are coming from and try to kill them before they reach close enough to take a bite out of you. It was actually a fun new way to approach altercations in the genre, and did give me a bit of arcade nostalgia by reminding me of the House of the Dead series, which was cool. It also elevated adrenaline significantly, especially when I had to fight against multiple foes, since the lack of movement and dodge mechanics meant I had to rush and take out everything around me as fast as possible, with my heartbeat spiking every time I had to reload as I watched a variety of horrifying abominations rush toward me. There's a good number of weapons for you to try out here as well, such as the shotgun, machine gun, magnum, and grenade launcher, with the game providing enough ammunition to have fun with them without giving away too much so that you can obliterate everything, effectively striking a nice balance between abundance and need for ammo conservation. If you happen to get hit, healing is carried out via the use of medkits, which are a staple of the genre. Third, I have to admit I loved the fact that there are a ton of different traps that can take you out if you're not careful, but each and every one of them is foreshadowed if you pay attention, such as the shotgun pitfall, which requires of you to wait 3 seconds before moving after you get the weapon, something that is communicated to you cryptically via a written message nearby, as well as the rhythmic drops of alcohol from a broken bottle next to the trap. This aspect of the experience truly cranked up the tension to 11 by making you paranoid of each and every interactable part of the manor, and I was there for it. Puzzles are another thing the title has in spades, but I have to admit that it dropped the ball majorly in that regard. Now, while some of the puzzles made sense to me and were actually fun to figure out, there were others that came off as completely nonsensical, such as the one where you have to turn around some statues to face a specific direction, or the animal head puzzle where you have to place the busts in a specific order, both of which have accompanying texts that are supposed to provide clues but end up being completely confusing. This element of the game was a major downside for me and did suck some of the fun out of it. Another thing I would have liked to have seen more of was boss variety since, aside from a couple of solid big bads, the rest felt more like mini-bosses that weren't particularly intimidating to begin with, especially design-wise. Speaking about variety, while there is some respectable diversity in terms of basic enemies, they still all ended up being slightly different takes on the basic zombie archetype, so a more fresh approach here would have been appreciated. On a last note, the game's map overview is fairly functional and marks doors, room names, as well as your own location, though it would have been great to also mark locked chests, which was a minor gripe of mine. All in all, You Will Die Here Tonight was a solid 4.5-hour experience that offered some welcome surprises when it came to its narrative, which also informed many of its gameplay elements in novel and and entertaining ways. Its puzzles did suck for the most part, and there could have been some more bosses present here to make things even more challenging, but the awesomely creepy atmosphere, constant sense of impending doom, stress-inducing combat, and nostalgic visuals make this a worthwhile addition to your survival horror collection. On a scale of S to F, You Will Die Here Tonight shoots its way to a respectable B.